us the opportunity to introduce themselves. We will go in reverse alphabetical order. And so, Wendell, when you also in answering your question, who you are and what is your passion, talk a little bit about why you think this panel is important, because this is your baby, this is your brainchild, and I want you to hear it in your own words why you thought this panel was essential.
Okay, so you put me on Front Street first. That's okay. I still love you. How you doing, everyone? My name is Wendell Smith. I am the Vice President of HBCU Con. That's me, my passion. To be honest, my passion is just to help people feel better about themselves, put smiles on people's faces, which is why I cosplay, which is why I do charity events, which is why 10 o'clock this morning, I was dressed as Santa Claus for this family who wanted their 1 and 3-year-old, 1-year-olds and 3-year-olds to have Santa visit them at their home. Why did I want to do this panel? It's easy to say because every year you see the different news stations, you see the different channels, TV channels and media networks do a remembrance program. But you don't see one from our perspective, from, I'm gonna say the street perspective, from the, I hate using middle class because that term is so it's not defined correctly. But, I'm gonna say the normal folks. You don't see something where we actually get to sit there and talk about the things that we've experienced or that we noticed. So to put together a panel like that with folks from the community, it made sense because we've had a lot happen in 2020 that affect us all, that has affected us all in one way or another, good, bad, or otherwise.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that. I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate the whole idea. And I feel like it's equally important for us to do this. All right. So I'm like a reverse ABC. So I guess Panama, that will make you our next candidate. Who are you and what is your passion?
What's going on, everybody? My name is Panama Jackson. I'm one of the co-founders of verysmartbrothers.com, which is now a vertical of theroot.com. So I'm a writer, extraordinary Black person, Blackness savant, spades champion, bad Black movie connoisseur. I am somebody who stereotypically buys all things Crown Royal just because I feel like I'm supposed to have it, who uses my Crown Royal bags for pertinent packing purposes. Just made it up that alliteration is awesome. So my passion, as you can tell, is Blackness, all things Black, Blackness, general Blackness, and Jagged Edge. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Very excited to have the conversation. Pleasure to meet you all. And yeah, stay Black.
That's very profound. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I aim for profoundness. Profundity, whatever the word is.
Right. So LadyT, we'll call you LadyT today because I know you like the sweet spot in the middle. But Miss Tiffany Watson, please introduce yourself, a fellow Bowie alum. I'm really excited. Please tell us who you are and what is your passion.
Okay, so I am Tiffany LadyT. I am the tea spiller and contributor on Be More Lifestyle on Fox 45. I'm an assignment editor, a digital producer at our news desk. I am the center of the newsroom. Everything goes through me. I'm passionate about comedy. I love being a comedian. I love making people smile, making them laugh. I like making them shake their head and be like, what is she gonna say next? Oh my goodness. The reason why I wanted to join this panel was because, number one, because Wendell told me to. Number two, and he's extremely trustworthy. So I was like, I can't go wrong. But then again, it was also the HBCU that was written so boldly. And, you know, as a Bowie State alum, BSU, I had to, of course, come on here and represent in my black and gold, baby. So, so that was another reason I wanted to do it. I'm so passionate about that. I'm so honored to be with so many great people on this panel today, and just the title, Remembering 2020, really just, I don't know, it just stuck out to me. And I was like, if there's one thing I really wanted to do was recap the year. And then when he told me about this panel, it was like, I had to jump on it. So there was nothing more, you know, that I wanted to do. So I'm so honored to be here with all of you all.
Oh, amen to that. All right, Greg. I struggle to even think of the words to introduce you. Just tell the folks who you are and what is your passion.
Yeah, my hands keep going in and out. This is crazy, son. My name is Greg Burnham, and I'm a writer. I write comic books. Tuskegee Airs is probably like definitely the most popular comic that I work on. And then I have another comic, The Search for Sadaka. Then I have like a whole bunch of other projects going right now, trying to get a movie or a TV show or animation for Tuskegee Airs. It's been kind of pushed back a little because of this wonderful COVID. Why am I on the panel? A certain person just will not leave me alone and force me to be on the panel. But now this is actually, it's not you, Wendell. So
Oh, I know.
I think we can do some deductive reasoning. But I've done a bunch of panels. I love this thought of HBCU Con. I did attend an HBCU called Grambling State University. And so, yeah, this is, you know, right in with, you know, passion that I have, which is, you know, telling stories, highlighting my people, and, you know, showing like reality. I don't want to say better than anybody else or worse than anybody else, but just, you know, really paying homage and showing the beauty of my people is kind of what I'm about. I think probably.
Oh my God, you almost had it. No, thank you. And last but certainly not least, the Honorable, the Maryland State's Attorney of Prince George's County and Howard University, fellow Howard University. Yes, hey.
HU.
No.
Yes, okay. Now that I got you nice and loosened up and excited about HU, please tell us who you are and what is your passion.
Absolutely. Well, let me just say thank you so much for having me. I'm Aisha Braveboy, proud Howard University School of Law graduate. So to all my fellow Bisons out there, I want to say hey. But all the HBCUs, for me, I am a huge supporter, huge fan. I literally would not be here if not for an HBCU, because my parents met at Howard University. My father immigrated here from Grenada, and he was on the campus of Howard University, saw this fine young thing, and you know, got up the courage to approach her. And you know, 40 something years later, they had me and my sister, and you know, and a legacy. And that legacy was built on the foundation of Howard University. But I think that story can be told so many times, regardless of the HBCU. And so that's one thing that I think all of our universities have in common. There is something that just binds us. There's just this love. Even when there's a little frustration from time to time, there's this love that we have for our institutions. Mm-hmm. And one of the most important parts of our institutions is that HBCUs have really produce some of the greatest minds, some of the greatest thought leaders in our country. And so I thought it was very fitting that we have an opportunity to talk about 2020 and be a part of that conversation and really lead that conversation, because that's the legacy that we stand on.
Oh, that was beautiful. We could just wrap this up right now. No, that was wonderful. But thank you all so much again for being here. I'm Chana Lawson, again, alumna of Bowie State and Howard University, and I'm just so excited to have all of you here. And let's, without further ado, just dive right into it. So, yes. So I want to give you all an opportunity to kind of talk about what are some of your best and worst moments of the year, and that can be on a personal level or a professional level or a community level, and however you feel. What are some of your biggest reflections of the year, I guess, be it good, bad, or anything in between? And any particular order, Wendell, I don't know if you want to start with that.
Nah, not yet. Don't start with me.
Okay. But I do think, before we even get into that question, I do want to touch on a few of the things that you all had said about what you're passionate about. And Miss Braveboy, the notion of how people are literally conceived, and minds are conceived and birthed at HBCUs. Like, my mom went to University of District of Columbia. My dad went to Bowie State. My aunt went to Bowie State. My stepmom went to Grambling and then Virginia State University. So that legacy and what it means, even if you didn't attend a HBCU, if you're a Black person, there's a 90% chance in America, if you're a Black person in America, there's a 90% chance that somebody in your family matriculated from an HBCU. Don't quote me on that number, but there's a good probability, right? So that's why we feel it's important to have spaces like this. And we're going to talk even more about that, because HBCUs are a trending topic for a number of reasons this year. But before we get into any of that, are there any particular highlights of the year? And how has, I guess we should start by addressing the elephant in the room, which is COVID-19. And how has that affected you all? Like, I know for me personally, my father went through it. My father was in the hospital for 4 months from April. He went in the beginning of April and actually came out just before August. So that was a thing. And of course, the economic pitfalls of it, everybody is kind of feeling it in some way, shape, or form, whether it's tangible or intangible. So I don't know if there's any insight or any words that you all might have that you would want to share in retrospect. And we're still in it. It's not even really retrospect. It's just retrospective 2020. It's not retrospective of the pandemic. But what are your thoughts on that? And how do you keep yourself sane in this environment? And how would you recommend others stay sane in this environment,
Well, I don't mind jumping in with this, because let me give you the perspective of, someone who's in management. I manage an office of over 200 people. Almost 100 of them are attorneys, and then I, of course, have support staff. And when COVID-19 hit, it hit every part of our society, including the justice system. And so the courts were impacted, and courts closed down for a while, and then we weren't able to have juries, and we still don't have juries right now. But the work still had to continue at some level, because we still unfortunately had crime. We still had individuals that had a right to have certain types of hearings. And then looking at managing the anxiety that I know that so many of my staff members had, and balancing that against the needs of a criminal justice system that does need parts of it to continue to work, you know, that was challenging. But one of the things that I recognized pretty early on is that we could have a real robust telework program. And in fact, most of my staff teleworked and continue to telework. And into the future, you know, I'm going to continue to keep that robust telework policy, because what that has done is it's given people time to exercise. It's given people time to spend a little bit more time with their families. It has cut down on some of the anxiety that people feel in that hustle and bustle kind of world. And what we realize is that our health, that none of this means anything if we don't have our health, we don't have our sanity, you know, if we lose touch and lose sight of our family and what's important. And so I think coming out of this, you know, just from a, you know, from a management perspective, I think we have to be way more compassionate, way more thoughtful, way more flexible about how we treat our employees, and then how we look at the work they do and what they can do from home, what they can do remotely, and what that does to morale and to just overall being productive, because we talk more now virtually than we ever did in person. And actually a lot of people find themselves either working longer or just having time to spread out their work throughout the day, but still delivering quality work. So I'm you know, there's some good lessons learned out of this. I definitely hope we get out of this as soon as possible, because there's so many people who don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks, like those of us in government do, who really need us to kind of get back to more of a normal routine.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And I'm happy you touched on that telework aspect too, because that was something that was very that was something that caused a lot of friction from one generation to another, was this whole notion that telework wasn't a good thing, which is interesting because when you think about who benefits from telework the most, it's more than likely the same people who are like most against it. But it works. And now there's no real like reason why we can't sit here and say that it doesn't work for a lot of jobs, not every job, but for a lot of jobs. And also addressing your, to your point, the having to fill the voids for the criminal justice system and letting that proceed. And then the concerns that people might have with voids that already existed, not only in the criminal justice system, but also in our medical system, that are now being exacerbated, like, you know, racism and all these other various isms that take place in our society. So I thank you for pointing that out. And also the notion of being compassionate as a manager, I think that that's something that's so important and something that doesn't get extended to a lot of our essential workers. So thank you again for addressing that as well. I don't know if I was cutting anybody off, but.
No, you good. Because to piggyback off of what Ms. Braveboy said, you got to also bring up the fact that our kids are home.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter the level, from kindergarten through college, they're home. Which for me is kind of funny, because before COVID became what it was, I had literally just started working at home anyway, you know, from my job. So I went about maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks with, you know, me and the dog in the house, to me, the dog, the kids, and my wife. I'm like, wait a minute, time out. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. Y'all need to go back to work. I was supposed to be working. But here it is, we're, you know, 9 months in, actually a little bit over 9 months in, because PG County started actually February 25th. So,
I guess you just moved here?
What? Yeah, I'm sorry, the TV went and had ghost stories or something, because I didn't touch anything. Anyway, but you know, that was something that brought to light, okay, are my kids actually doing what they're supposed to be doing in school? And can they do it on their own from home? Without, you know, without actually having that physical touch with the teacher. Or being in that physical space, I should say, not the physical touch, because that brings in other thoughts from people. And it's weird. Anyway.
And just the transfer of energy, like for me personally, I'm not a fan of online learning. I'm not. I never have been. I like the experience of having I like the experience of being in a room full of smart people. So
and that's what my daughter said. She's 12. She was like, I don't mind this, but I really would rather be in class with my classmates.
yeah.
She said, I miss it.
Yeah, which is very telling because that's like the stereotype is that Gen Z and and us millennials are glued to our computers and our cell phones all the time. But like, no, we actually do enjoy looking at people in real life.
Right, exactly. Now my son, on the other hand, he's a high school senior. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna figure out how many classes I have left to take, and I'm gonna make sure I have less than half a day to do my classes.
Right.
So he's worried about graduating in football. He doesn't care about anything else right now.
Yeah, and my stepmom and my sister, they both work in education. My sister's a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, and then my stepmom is a counselor specialist for Prince George's County Board of Education. And it's just the amount of stress and friends who are teachers, like the amount of stress that teachers have right now is like if anybody needs grace more than like the medical community is and people who are like really economically struggling is teachers.
The stress is doubled.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how the teachers, the paradigm has shifted, right? It started with thank God for teachers, and then over the course of time, like there was some kind of backlash on teachers not wanting to go back into the schools, go back into buildings. Like it's amazing how our personal proclivities kind of dictate how we feel about those communities who are effectively doing a tremendous service for all of us, right? You know, from the medical community, even right now, right? So the talk of the vaccine and the science community is very much like, we have a vaccine coming, and you know, there's no judgment of wherever people stand on this, but you know, there's tons of people like, nah, I'm not doing that. But we all want to get to the end of COVID at the same time. But like medical professionals that many of us know and trust are like, yeah, I have to do this. But you know, it's just an interesting dynamic that happens between where we are when we start something versus where we are when we're trying to get to the end of it and how it affects our day-to-day life. And to come back in there, like even on a personal level. So this year started out with, before COVID, my daughter ended up in the hospital for 2 weeks because in February, and because of COVID, we've had effectively do social distance visits for almost the entirety of this pandemic, right? Because she has an autoimmune disorder, and so she's especially, you know, she can't get sick. She can't be around anybody, and this is like the worst possible time for that. And because, you know, I have a household with my wife here and a little kid, like we have to make sure that we're all being extra careful about this. So on a personal level, from a health side, this has been a terrible year. Like I've been separated from my daughter in a way that I never envisioned, even though we still see each other, but the way that we interact, you know, it's not something that I've ever experienced with my own flesh and blood. On the other end, I just had a baby. Well, my wife just had a baby. Let me not take credit for that. My wife just had a baby a couple months ago. So, you know, it's like I have a child who is sick and I have a new life. And in the middle there, I got kids at home. I have a nephew who started his freshman year at Tuskegee from Huntsville, Alabama. You know what I mean? And it's like all these, there's no part of life that hasn't been impacted by COVID. And I'm sure everybody knows that. From, you know, I'm a Target aficionado, and I don't think I stepped in a Target for like 3 or 4 weeks at a time. I was like, I feel like I'm having actual withdrawal from Target. Like I don't even need nothing, but I need to go drop this 150 on something because that's how my Target runs go. But then it also turned me into like, I started buying all this stuff that I don't need all the time. But interestingly, then George Floyd happens and I bought more Black stuff than I've ever bought in my entire life. Every t-shirt that comes in here is from a Black company. Every item that comes into this house nowadays that doesn't have Nike or Adidas on it is like a Black owned company. So it's like, it's just been this weird like equilibrium up and down shift on the positives and the negatives, because for, you know, for dude, I just had to remember the George Floyd happened this year. Like that shit, that was, excuse my language, that was this year. And it feels like 5 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like, this is going to be the year that nobody will ever forget. It's going to make all the history books. There need to be chapters dedicated to 2020 in every history book going forward from here on out. Like, and, you know, I can't wait to get to the end of this because, frankly, I'm tired. I want to go outside and play with my friends. I haven't dapped anybody up in so long. Like, I almost think I forgot how to properly dap a black man up. And I'm concerned about how that's going to play. Black card getting pulled when
I was gonna say they're gonna take your black card for that one.
You'll never forget it, bro. Man, don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming. But here's the thing. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm assuming I won't forget it. But you got to get back into it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a certain angle on the hugs. You know what I mean?
This is what's happening right now. Hey, what's up, bro? And that's supposed to get.
That's right.
I don't need my elbow touching your elbow.
Well, so many of us have special daps we do with our people too, right? So I don't know, got the seventh step on the third leg turn. Like, you know, that stuff is complicated. You got to practice. If you don't keep it up, you lose it.
That's true.
You could just do the 2-finger snap. When you go like this, you gotta do like what white people do.
No, we can't.
Yeah, you just go through the whole way like that.
Stop.
No. Okay.
No, that's not right.
That is funny. But
I love it though.
Brought up some really good points, Greg. I feel like you have something to say, but before
always have something to say.
Before I let you say it, I want to say, no, I'm glad that you brought up the duality of one, you know, this whole dynamic of like, we want to trust science. Like the fact that you're saying trust science and that is a controversial statement.
Right. That's an oxymoron for some people, but I get it.
But
I get the conspiracy aspect of it. I get that part of it.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to tap into, that duality, particularly for us as Black people, where there's a history of distrust for the medical, and it's valid, you know.
It's a very valid reason.
On a global perspective. So but also at the same time, I used to work at NIH at the same instant. I used to work under Dr. Fauci. So I understand both sides of it very much so. But and for me, it's all a matter of like, well, what is your reasoning? Because some people are just like, well, I'm not just going to do it just because, like, just off of ego, you know, and just because they're being told to take it, they're like, I'm not going to take it. And we kind of, you know, have an inkling into who some of those people are. But at the same time, I also understand the overall distrust from the Black community towards the medical community because of that dynamic. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and you know, just trying to stay optimistic and that it plays out for the better, for our sake, if nothing else, right? Because people's lives are on the line with this stuff.
Right.
And then the love-hate relationship with teachers and the medical community. I think that's something that's been like, that predates this. It's just kind of been exacerbated by the pandemic, quite frankly. But what were you gonna say? Look at your face, Greg. Fix your face. Say what you gotta say.
Oh man, I was trying to remember the original question because it's been some good stuff being said. But I think like when you think of, you know, like low points, being in the entertainment side of it, you know, Chadwick Boseman like dying, that is. And it's weird because I don't know if everybody, but I know that I've been experiencing like lots of people, like losing a lot of people this year, whether it's friends, family of friends, you know, the whole nine. So I remember like when we heard about Chadwick Boseman, and it was like, I feel like that was a moment where it just, you know, that was probably like the lowest, just because of what he meant, you know, especially in the comic book world, you know, and so like that, losing Kobe early started it off. It's like this whole year has just been like hard body blows. And, you know, for me as a publisher who makes a considerable amount of my income, doing conventions. We usually do like 30 a year. I see Wendell at about 20 of them.
That's true.
But like having those canceled, I'll never forget like how it went. We did Chicago, C2E2. It's one of the biggest conventions in the United States, and COVID was starting to hit. So you started seeing people like cautious about, shaking hands and hugging and all of that. And then I'm gearing up to go to Seattle because we make a boatload of money in Seattle. And Washington was like the first state where it really, really hit. And being in denial in the beginning, like, man, it'll probably be gone in about 2 days when I'm about to get on this plane, and like literally trying to make the decision, am I gonna go or do we, pull out? And then they ended up canceling it. And then I started watching these shows, get canceled one by one. It was kind of devastating to us. But I think the resiliency that was, and this is the whole point of what I'm trying to say, is that we built up this resiliency. We started finding other ways and realizing we had kind of got lazy because we were like, yeah, we'll do 3 conventions this month. And, I can live off that for another 2 months. You know what I'm saying? So we had to focus more on online sales, like figuring out, creating a model that was going to work, that to where we can keep getting these books out to people. And with that, we've, kind of helped to where if everything gets back to normal, it's just like double, because, double the income. So that was one of the biggest things that I processed, was just figuring out how to keep this thing going. Like as a dude who towards the end of what year 2019, I left my career of 18 years so I could go full time as a writer and a publisher, and then funky COVID came and like sit down. So but it's been tough. I luckily, I don't know if lucky is the right word. My kids are grown, so I didn't have to deal with the schooling and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I fear for the people that do. I feel for you, not fear. I feel for you. It's been tough. I think the beginning of the quarantine was cool because it was like we had this bonding thing that, nobody was really able to do, because you had to work and hustle. But that only lasted like a couple months. Then everybody's looking at each other like, dude, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Zoom parties were a life for a good 3.5, almost 4 months.
Right.
Yeah. And if I do another like brush challenge or something, like one of those challenges.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, please don't ask me to do another challenge.
I think I did 4 or 5 of those, and I'm like, okay, I'm tired. I'm tired of changing from one costume to another
Right, for 5 minutes.
You were in a really good window, Wendell. Like, I was like rooting for y'all. I was cheering for y'all.
It was because that might have been the first one, the fight one that we did.
Yeah, where y'all was like,
the fight challenge.
I'm gonna put it to you like this: I threw myself into the wall of my garage so doggone many times, trying to get the right shot. I knocked stuff off my wall.
Wow.
I don't want to do another fight challenge. I'm getting too old for that mess.
Yeah. I think we all want some semblance of what normal is like, and what you talked about earlier, Panama, like the trip to Target. Like, I just want to do something that's like normal, not have to feel like
I have definitely been at Target, by the way. I just want that to be clear. Target has got
I was gonna
all
say,
these
is nobody
dividends.
going to Target? I was gonna say
Early on, I wasn't going to Target, and then when I first stepped in Target, I was like, I'm back.
Relapse.
But so it was the first time I'd realized how much I viewed everybody else as a threat. Because when I walked in there, I was literally side-eyeing everybody who was walking too close or whatever. Like, It was a very uncomfortable feeling of, damn, like I'm genuinely concerned about my personal space at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is, but I'm over that now. We definitely being targeted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just caused, this year has caused, and the pandemic and everything around, it's exacerbated so much. It has caused an enormous amount of grief, like you said, Greg. People just like, losing people in general, or experiencing loss on some level, whether it's a loss of your job, losing your anything, losing someone you love, or your home, or whatever. This has been a year of a lot of grief. And Chadwick Boseman's death, and Kobe Bryant's death, and Breonna Taylor's death, and George Floyd's death, were all so symbolic of that. And the world, it was like the world would literally stop in those moments. And
then we lost Congressman Lewis as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm like, this can't keep going on. And then we lose Debo.
Yeah.
Right.
It's almost like I found myself getting to the part where I was numb. Like I lost one of my classmates, and like somebody who actually, he was always helping to make sure, people weren't bullying us younger guys, like a really good dude, and it's like, do I, you're having to think like, do I want to make this drive and then go be around people? You know what I'm saying? I had got to the point where I was numb. It's like, I don't really want to talk to anybody. I'm just going to try to like bury myself in this work. Because, I don't know what the adequate mechanism is for, treating us. Like, I feel like all of us have experienced so much loss. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how, if things start to come back together, are we going to, as a people, are we going to, like start healing ourselves from this? Are we just going to try to jump back in?
Yeah. That we can't go back. I mean, there are aspects of the normal that we knew that we want, we know we want that back, but what parts of it do we need to leave behind so that we don't see ourselves in this situation again, or at least it's not, everything's on fire.
There's been enough fire.
Yeah. My fair LadyT and Ms. Braveboy, I don't know if you all have any reflections, but LadyT, please, if you have anything you want to share. I feel like you've been quiet, but you got something to say.
I was enjoying. I'm sorry. It was a real good combo.
Everyone's so.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
2020 was definitely a rough year. Of course, the Kobe Bryant death, I think, was the biggest thing for me, him and Gigi's death. So in my house, we are all Lakers fans, okay? And my dad raised us to be Kobe Bryant fans, and we are not allowed to be any other fan other than that, okay? Because as for me, in my house, we will serve, okay, the Lakers. So we were diehard fans, and then to see that happen, it kind of was like, okay, so this is how 2020 is going to be. So it was kind of like a reality check, I want to say, for everyone in my house. And, I think it hit us at a time where, so my mom, she had uterine cancer, and she had just finished chemo in February. And then the week after she finished chemo, we were like, oh, things can only go up from here, and things can only get better from here. And I think the week after was when Kobe Bryant died. And then after that was when we had our first 4 cases of COVID in Maryland. So it was kind of like, I don't know. It was not looking too good for the rest of 2020. So it was a bit of a reality check. This has been a rough year, but so many good things I can say still did happen. One way I've been coping, of course, besides, like Hannah said, going to Target. I love me some Target. Okay, I'll be up in there every other week with my mask on. And what I do hate about it, though, is 2020 has brought me to a point where we had to wear masks all the time, right? And I hate when, like, you got to go into some place that requires masks and you leave your mask in the car. Like, it blows my life having to be that person that I'm like, oh, shoot, left my mask in the car. And I have to turn around. And then one guy called me on it. He was like, oh, you left your mask. Ha! And he was like, I was like, this is embarrassing. Like, this is 2020. This is it for us. Like, relaxing one, but the best way to cope, I think, for this year was Tiger King, number one. That was the best way to cope with 2020. Because had it not been for his downfall, my life could not have been, I felt better about myself in 2020 looking at his life. You know what I'm saying? Right. I mean, I love the Tiger King series. I can't wait for the next season to come out. That was been a great thing to look forward to. But also these versus battles have really kept me grounded. As the cases kept going up and we kept seeing, Hogan on TV and with more and more bad news of shutdown and all of this, it was like these versus battles really gave me hope, and gave us something to laugh at and to take our mind off of, in the meantime, while the pandemic was happening. Besides the fly on Pence's head, we took our mind off of what was like, detrimental around us, and we got to laugh for a second and remember that, we're all human, and we got to just, I don't know, it helped us relax a lot more. So there were some good times in 2020 that I do want to keep, and hang on to, although there were so many bad times, Right. So those were some things that really did stick out to me. Now, the worst death, I think, for my family, I was raised on Alex Trebek. So that really hurt. I know, Kobe's was bad, but Alex Trebek, my father would not let us watch anything else at 7:00 on the dot. Okay.
I like your dad.
And for him, my dad, he was like, when I was growing up, he was like, we could not watch anything other than Jeopardy. Like, we would watch other things, College Hill, other stuff. He was like, you need to put that TV on Jeopardy right now, 7:00. And Alex Trebek, his death, I mean, that was so, I don't know, that was heartbreaking for me, because it's like, who could replace this man? This man, we've all grown up with him. I mean, he has been around for so many years. He is literally one of the biggest, the best, of intelligence and IQ tests, on Jeopardy every day. We see all these people trying to win this money. And, he was the like the creme de la creme, you know what I'm saying? So for us to lose him, that really did hurt also. So these were some important things to me that really stood out, of course, in 2020. And I think, although there were, lots of bad times, I do want to still look at the good. We did have some fun things that, did happen this year, and
That's
the
true.
sales and that online shopping, please do not sleep. Online shopping was lit this year, okay? Although my packages did take at least a month to get here, the online shopping did really help ease some stress. You know what I'm saying? Them sales was on point. So that's it. That's where I want to end that off on.
Yeah. See, you in Panama with the shopping stuff, because at one point in time, I think Amazon came to my house every day for like 2 weeks.
Man.
Yeah.
For like 2
You
weeks.
love seeing that Amazon truck. You love seeing that Amazon truck.
No, but see, it's bad when you have two different trucks coming on the same day.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, has
That's
it
not
been
bad.
I mean,
stopped coming?
it was for what I was doing, it wasn't bad because I'm like, oh, my stuff is here.
Yes.
But it's bad because you're like, oh man, my stuff. I just spent, oh, no, you know what? Let me just go ahead and make what I was going to go ahead and make and not think about that side.
You that guy who wants your items as soon as possible. He want his items as soon as possible. He don't want it in one package. And then he looking embarrassed when it's still come at the same time.
Nah, you know what makes it even worse? Having a junior, and he started buying stuff, so stuff would come with my name. Well, with our name on it.
Oh yeah.
And then you look and you're like, oh damn, that's not mine, that's his.
Yeah.
Boy, take your stuff.
Braveboy, before we start with you, I just got to shout out, because I think LadyT, you nailed it so perfectly. Shout out to Black Twitter, Black
Hey.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they really just like the verses and all, like they really make it worth it.
They do.
Yes.
They do.
Just shout out to Black Twitter and Black.
LadyT, I was gonna say the same thing with verses. That was in my head, and I learned, some little known Black history. Like, I didn't know that Teddy Riley produced the show, which has to be like one of my favorite songs of all time. And I was like, that's Teddy Riley.
Yeah,
he won. After that, but also I gotta give a shout out to D Nice. D Nice has life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So it's just, and then I started listening to a lot more like podcasts, and there are a lot of really great Black talk shows on like YouTube.
That part.
And it's just been like great to hear different voices. And honestly, I'm not trying to give anybody, you know, like more press, but Roland Martin is the man. His show is everything. And I like live to listen to him 6 p.m. daily. I'm there, you know. I mean, it's just so great to be able to hear these different perspectives, or the things you think coming out of somebody's mouth that's not you, but may have that same shared experience as you. And you're like, yes, I'm not crazy to think that way.
Exactly.
So all of that to me has just been like amazing. And on the HBCU side, to see these young, talented, top rated athletes in the country choosing to go to HBCUs, canceling their, you know, commitments to other universities and saying, no, I'm going to Howard, or I'm going to, you know, Bowie or other universities. That is like everything, because we always wonder, well, if the majority of us Black people are in, you know, the sports, you know, field, or in on these professional teams, in many of the you know, in many of the sports, why is it that the HBCUs haven't really been a part of the, you know, the business side of producing these athletes and being, you know, and getting those you know, TV deals and radio deals and other things where they're watching athletes, you know, that look like the student body at those universities. You know, you just wonder why, you know, that didn't happen. And it's because oftentimes, you know, we were told if you don't go to a, you know, this school, then you're not going to be able to make it into the professional realm and arena.
That's true.
But I think that our kids are saying, like, forget that. You know, like, we're going to make it on our talent, and I want to choose to go to an HBCU. And I mean, honestly, like, I love that. That just made me like, woo.
and I'm going to piggyback up off of that because of the fact, I think a lot of the stigma that HBCUs still, you know, receive is the fact that they're Black colleges, they're Black universities. They don't teach as well as a white university or independent university may have.
And there's a long history behind that, a history.
But you kind of got to understand the cycle, right? Because like some of the greatest players that ever played in the NFL came from HBCUs. I would like to take a quick second to shout out Doug Williams, the first Black quarterback to win a Super Bowl from Grambling State University. And so you know what happened, and there's a great book on it. It's called, if you're into sports, it's called $40 Million Slave. Excellent book. And it talks about how, you know, before, you know, integration, Black colleges were powerhouses. And so you have all the Jerry Rice, even though this was after, but Jerry Rice went to, Mississippi Valley State. Walter Payton went to Jackson State. Like, so some of the greatest players, but back in the day, all the great players were coming from HBCUs, namely Grambling State, which was the greatest, you know, college. Never mind. So anyways, you know, but then once, you know, we started integrating, you know, they started plucking, just like they pluck the talent out of our neighborhoods. So they're plucking these athletes, and now we have this perception. I remember being at Grambling like in the 90s, and none of our players would get drafted, but the very next day, like 20 guys would get called to come to, you know, try out for different teams. And that's kind of what they've been doing with HBCU. So if you look throughout these rosters, you'll still see guys. But now, like what Deion Sanders is doing at Jackson State, bringing in all this talent, you're going to start seeing more guys, you know, in the NFL, you know, coming from our schools, which is cool. Especially if they can help to generate more income that could, you know, like up the facilities and up the training, because if you can provide the training and the facilities for these kids, then they won't be behind when they get to, you know, the NFL. Like they'll be right there on par with the guys that they're, you know, competing against.
And shout out to Chris Paul for what he did in the NBA playoffs, rocking HBCU apparel every game. He had on either a hoodie. He had shoes that were modified to include HBCUs on them, and inadvertently kicked up the profits of a Howard student from that shop LHP, Legacy, Heritage, I don't know what the P stands for, Pride. Like he was wearing a lot of this particular brand's clothes, and all of a sudden their stuff was selling out left and right. Like those shorts with the year on them or the school or whatever. Like I have like 4 pairs of them damn things because I saw them and I was like, oh, I got to get on that. And that just shows the power of these athletes. Like the fact that Chris Paul took it upon himself to do that, but also that once somebody of that profile is doing it, everybody's trying to figure out what that is and immediately goes and tries to find out where to get it, thereby increasing, it's that cooperative economics thing. Right. You know what I mean? Just by virtue of his celebrity, he's able to help uplift another young, who's still a Howard student, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Who is the owner of that brand. So it's been an interesting summer for HBCUs in the way that we've all, I mean, I think giving has probably been up more for HBCUs. Everybody, every white person with money was giving money to HBCUs. Granted, I went to Morehouse, Spelman, Howard. Certain schools always tend to be on those lists. Right. I ain't gonna be mad about that. I'm gonna take that money and run with it. But you know, like just shout out to all the white people with money to spend and handing out to and giving us a couple million here and there, helping some more Black people go to school for free.
No strings attached.
No
strings attached. That was very important. No strings attached.
And Panama, since you brought that up, even though you know I think they actually divorced earlier this year as well. The Amazon founder and his wife.
Bezos and
well, his wife is on one because she just gave Morgan 40 million this last week, and then she gave.
Look up her name, Mackenzie Scott, too, because I can tell you how many articles I've seen where they call her.
That's how you know these people do not like their family members too. They got billions of dollars and they hand it out to everybody else. Like, you know,
I mean,
you try to do this, your family be like, hey, we should be a little bit up in the line on this one. That's really nice.
But see, the crazy thing about it, and I guess this can segue into how people are handling money as well, because we saw a lot of money go towards all of these corporations and et cetera, et cetera. Here's someone who has a buttload of money who just said, you know what, I'm going to help the people who aren't being helped.
Right.
And she's given somewhere upwards of, I think, close to $1 billion to HBCUs.
On the better half
overall.
Yeah.
I forget the numbers because they've changed over the past few months.
I saw when she first said it. Definitely a lot of money. It's
for she's giving money like it's candy.
It's game-changing money.
Yeah, and for me, I went to I graduated from Coppin State. Where at the time where Maryland State was like, okay, yeah, you're a school, we're going to give you this amount of money and you'll be all right.
Right.
And then it took our former president fighting to get money from the state and having to go to court to say, hey, you guys have not been treating us right for the past however many years. And now the schools are, all of the HBCUs are actually getting money in Maryland. They have somebody come in and say, you know, hey, you guys are being disenfranchised. Here's 40 million. Here's 35 million. Here's 30.
There was a time when $1 million donation to an HBCU was like the largest donation ever.
Right.
For these schools, you know, and Morehouse. I remember Oprah gave like $1 million. She gave like $13 million or something to Morehouse at one point, and it was like, wow. Nobody's ever given this much money to an no single individual has ever done that.
Right.
And now those stakes is high now because folks is dropping 40 mil and 30 and you know, and it's nothing money to them. You know, it's easy money to them, but you know.
But the thing that I think the point where I'm getting ready to get back to, and this is the part where this country's kind of, you know, bent on greed, because again, corporations will help. And we've still got people out of work. We've still got people that are hungry. We've still got people who are about to lose their homes come January 1st. But then you've got these billionaires who've made 80, 90 billion not million, but billion
Right.
in the past 9 months.
Right. Which, to put that in perspective, if you make 100,000 a year, they said it takes you 10 years to make $1 million versus $1 billion is 10,000 years.
Yeah.
10,000 years.
So you've got people who've made 26 billion. I think the other number I saw was about 40 or 50 billion, and then you've got Mr. Amazon himself who made roughly 90 billion.
Yeah, and I know in Scott's case, she co-founded the corporation, so she gets a cut of it, and her stock went up because of the pandemic. So I think when they divorced, she was worth like 30 billion, and then now she's worth like 60.
Yeah.
So this is like literally a drop in the bucket for her. And I do want to the fact that, to your point, Panama, black people have been supporting the HBCUs for countless, basically since they've been conceptualized. And what was the other thing? Oh, and the importance of athletic programs that you had mentioned, Miss Braveboy and Greg. Because quite frankly, and that's a big misconception about Ivy League schools, is that, they're superior because people who go there are smarter or whatever. These schools got money because of their athletic programs. They got money like that's and slavery, in part. So you can't. So, but to that point, academics is everything, but athletics, when it comes to making money for these institutions, is so important. And to see HBCUs get back in the game in that respect is so vital. And not only that, but they're getting involved in other big programs such as esports. I think it's Fayetteville State and one other university are now in this is within the last year that have now gotten involved into esports, where you have institutions like UC Berkeley who are already making bank off of hosting esports events at their convention, at their universities. Part of the reason why, HBCU Con was created was to get us in that game, right? And then also I'm just like, everything that you all said was so profound. I'm trying to bring it back. And then shout out to Roland Martin. I actually know someone who appears on his show quite frequently. Her name is Kelly Bethia. She might go by KB on the show, but she's another attorney, Miss Braveboy, and she frequently is on the show. So shout out to Roland Martin. I think that it's important for us. I want to see if we have any questions from the audience.
While you're looking, I wanted to.
It's been more comments from the audience.
What was you going to say, Greg?
No, I just wanted to bring up, because you mentioned something that I think we also learned, if we didn't already know this year, is how these universities are basically using these players as slave labor. And I'm not just talking about HBCUs, but you saw like when, they started having to cancel stuff, like cancel these different programs, you start seeing how much money the football players, like SEC football players, are bringing in, and the basketball players in the ACC, and you start looking at it, and this whole time they've been trying not to compensate these players, while these coaches are making $10 million a year, $5 million a year. They've been trying not to compensate, and now it just totally just exposed, that a lot of these universities, the money they have for all their other sports programs come from football and basketball. And, I already didn't feel bad, because I, as an AAU coach and a mentor, I've had like a lot of kids that have been like struggling, for food and stuff like that in college. And you're not even able to send them, like if I send them money or, then they could get in trouble. So, I'm a big fan of these kids getting paid, because they're totally being exploited. And you can miss me with that free education, because if they couldn't play the sport, you wouldn't have them at your school anyway.
That's true.
Exactly.
And that court case is actually going to happen very soon.
Yeah.
In some places, like I know California, they've already let up some, like they're allowing these guys to at least, use their likeness to make money, so they can take part in advertising and certain stuff. but
Right.
you know, it needs to be more.
Yeah, it does. And I'm
If you're-
glad. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, if you're selling tickets, you're selling jerseys, you're selling concessions, you're making all this money off these kids.
Right. Yeah, definitely should be a budget allocated for that. And someone had mentioned Maryland universities. I believe it was Howard, actually. Howard University Law School had filed a class action lawsuit against the Maryland Higher Education Commission for disproportionately funding HBCUs. And we
that was, it was actually the Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights under Law, and and the alumni and current students of the 4 historically Black colleges and universities in the state of Maryland. And I'm trying to remember the other firm. There was another law firm that was a part of that, but it was actually the Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights under Law that was the lead counsel in that.
Thank you. I knew you would know the answer, but yes. So long story short, if you see a lot of the universities, it's particularly Bowie, Morgan, Eastern Shore, a lot of buildings are already being built because of that class action lawsuit that was ultimately won.
Well, let me just say this. Actually, that's not the case, because there has not yet actually been an agreed upon remedy that has been ordered by the court. The court ordered the parties to develop a remedy, but they haven't actually done that. They couldn't agree on the number, and the current governor would not agree to what the plaintiffs wanted. And so what happened was the legislature stepped in and said, well, we're going to pass a bill to fund HBCUs and for the amount that we believe is appropriate, which is pretty much what the plaintiffs had asked for in terms of a remedy. However, that bill was vetoed by the governor. And so when the legislature goes back into session next year, they're going to have to vote to overturn the governor's veto. So that's an important vote that you should be looking out for in early January.
I'm glad you pointed that out.
Okay.
That just brings us right back to.
I used to be the chair of the Black Caucus. I know a little something about that lawsuit.
Okay. And I think there's it actually leads us to another, and I think it's an important conversation to have before we wrap up, is the political spectrum and how, the socio-political landscape has been affected by all of this. And not only that, but just things that have really been kind of deep seated in this country since it's been founded, and things that have been kind of like swept under the rug that are now too big for or too in our face to ignore at this point. So to your point, and that even makes me look further into the future, like, okay, the conversation about reparations is something that continues to be brought up, and now seeing how the different nuances and how complicated things can get, just getting HBCUs their money, it's like, oh my God, what is this going to look like when it's time to pay the Black families and individuals in that sense? So I'm thankful that you corrected me and brought that up. But I want to talk about give us a chance to talk about the election, the presidential election, what our current political landscape looks like, and how we can be active going into 2021 as, as citizens who care about this country and want to see people who don't have the, don't have the resources to be as politically involved as we might have. What are some things that you feel like we should be mindful of? And I think, Ms. Braveboy, it might be good to start with you on that regard, because you're kind of in it when it comes to all of this stuff. So by all means.
And I'll be quick, because because I talk politics all the time, so I'm definitely interested in what everyone else has to say. But I think the one thing that I think is so important, and it's a concept that I think people are talking about now, is that of equity. And we can't have equality without equity. And I know that in the past, there has been this big movement around equality. We want to be treated equally. Right. But I think there has to be a recognition that the government and, society in general has really created a huge disparity in how people are treated, starting back to, the slave trade. And then the Jim Crow laws, and then, segregation and racism, and all of those things have led to African Americans having just being a part of a very small percentage of wealth in the country. And if we just say equality and say, well, everyone's now treated equal, do what you need to do, you're not starting from the same place. You're not starting from the same foundation. You're not starting with the same trust funds. You're not starting with that same legacy of land ownership, because our mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers could not own land. They could not get education. So when there's a recognition that we have to really start from that perspective and start really talking about equity and equity in all that we do, when we pass new laws to create new industries, like everyone's talking about the marijuana industry, what is that going to mean for Black people who have been over prosecuted, over incarcerated, over everything with marijuana? Right. What happens when it's legal? Does that mean that we then just get to buy it from the same people who sold us cigarettes and sell us alcohol and everything else? That's not equity. That is continuing to support a system of haves and have-nots. And so for us as policymakers and people who have a voice in the legislative process, to some extent I do, we have to push for equity, for ownership, for an opportunity for us to drive economies and not just simply be consumers.
Right.
Woo. All right, I'll put myself on mute now.
Okay.
Nah, that was beautifully stated.
I'm telling you. Listen.
Beautifully stated.
That is such an under equity. If I could pick one word that is the most underused word in this conversation, it would be equity. It would be equity. Wow. Okay. So I know we got a hot room right now. So who wants to say something? Don't everybody jump all at once.
I'm sitting down. I'll jump though. Now, I mean, she said it perfectly. Like, equity is a big part of it. I personally don't know. Like, I feel like just as important, if not more important, is for the cooperative economics. What Panama was speaking about earlier about, the Black businesses. We saw, like, I made a point, I guess like 20 years ago to shop and buy Black as much as possible. So it's like part of my daily routine. And, whether it's me driving 30 miles, to Greenbrier Mall to get, to my favorite bookstore, or, buying my materials from the Black comic shop in Atlanta. It's what I do all the time. I know it sounds basic, but like, I was talking to this dude who owns a nail shop. I'm not sure. I know he's Asian, I think Vietnamese maybe. He was just talking about how, he's used that shop to put his kids through college, and to hire people in his family, and how important that shop is to him. And I think we don't understand that when we're, like, when you're buying from me, buying my books, all that kind of stuff, it's directly helping me, get my daughter through college. It's not just for me to buy some, like, frivolous things. And so it's like making that point to really shop. And you don't have to shop just because it's, it's a Black business. You should give it a shot because it's a Black business. But if they're not providing like quality that you're looking for, yeah. But I think that part is huge alone, because it's a way that we can slowly build each other up. And we keep looking, at ourselves. Like I wonder all kinds of things, like how hard would it be? I know a lot of people got like with the Susu scams and the Bitcoin scams this year. How hard would it be like if people got together and said, hey, let's put Wendell's son, let's put some money on his first year of college, it wouldn't be that hard.
Right.
But I think the more that we are sharing and supporting each other, things like that could actually come to fruition, because that's what other cultures do in this, in this country. You don't see them out, marching and begging for basic human rights. They take care of that stuff themselves, because they already know the government ain't gonna they're not gonna go out of their way.
Right.
We've been told forever that reparations would destroy this country. And then just like that, they're sending out stimulus checks to everybody, and sending all these stimulus packages to these businesses and everything. So it lets you know, just like, working from home, teleworking, it lets you know that they've been lying about that for years.
Right. We could have been working from home this whole time.
Right.
As soon as they tried it.
Yeah. So a lot of lies have been crumbled, through the pandemic.
It's funny you bring up the whole Bitcoin scandal. I would need to shout out Megan Thee Stallion, who does attend the HBCU, and she actually did give away Bitcoin to people. I know some people personally who got Bitcoin from her, so shout out to her.
Man, how much Bitcoin she giving away right now?
She gave away like $1 million in Bitcoin. She gave away $1 million in Bitcoin, but it was to a bunch of different people. Like,
right. So she giving away like $10, which is like 0.0001%. Do you understand that I could have bought a Bitcoin? I started to buy a Bitcoin.
Yes, we had that conversation, and you didn't do it.
Yeah, they were down to like $5,000 right now. Like one coin is like, the last time I looked, I think it was like 23,000. I have been making some money on the stock market this year, which I'm mad that I haven't been doing this my whole life, because you can make some real money. So I have been doing that. That's one of the good things that's come out of this year. But I should have bought that Bitcoin, man.
He left that career of 18 years that he left was in finance, y'all, just so y'all know. So
shout out to LLC Twitter and all them folks too, who been telling me to start me a business, get me an LLC, and I'll become an instant millionaire.
Yeah.
Because that shit is a scam too. Excuse my French.
Right. And positive vibes only, positive vibes only, and you will get $1 million. That's how it works.
Those messages
be on Twitter enough to.
Yeah, now those messages, I see those, I'm like, delete, block.
And that's why it was ultimately so important for us to have this panel, is to kind of like really be able to showcase what it looks like to have difficult conversations in a way that's healthy and in a way that is releasing and refreshing, so that we can keep on keeping on in all of this BS, quite frankly, because that's what it is. That's what it feels like, but I'm just so grateful for all of you for being here. Let me see if we have any questions from the audience before. I do want to shout out some of our viewers. Corey said, I have been hitting Target during the pandemic. Corey Morgan. But the Amazon guy,
what's up, Corey?
Yeah, but the Amazon guy has been to the house so often that I was worried that if I missed a day, they'd stop by to see if I was okay.
You're telling the truth.
That is facts. That is straight facts.
And then C.S. Sherman says, people forget that top Black athletes going to PWIs is a relatively new thing. To your point, Greg, in the 70s and 80s, there were HBCU teams that could run with any D1 school and football. That's absolutely. And shout out to Bowie State's football program. I actually went to school with some of the coaches there, Kyle Jackson, and a few of the other coaches who played at Bowie. So it's really kind of cool to see how that came full circle, and now they're one of the best teams in the CIW.
Right.
So yay!
Yeah, my cousin plays for them too. He is killing. Yeah.
Yes, we love the children. Oh God, I can't believe I'm saying that.
Right. I was like, how old are we that we're allowed to say that now? Wait a minute.
Oh my God, 30s. What is it?
Oh.
But
30s.
What is that?
I'm
Okay.
in the 30s.
I've already left those. I've left that 3 behind.
well,
Yeah.
How adorable.
anyway, so
Yeah.
you know, you don't have to if you don't tell, they'll never know.
Right.
That's
And due to
well.
the
If I shave this
pandemic,
little
we
bit
all
of gray
have
left
a
right here,
birthday.
they'll never know.
I'm telling you. Or you could just say it's a condition. Like you know how some people are just born with gray hair. You could say that.
No, but see, I'm bald up here almost naturally now. So yeah, I have to go ahead and shave this, or say I'm cosplaying as somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what
Hey, I would like to shout out my Grubhub and DoorDash drivers.
facts though.
Because they're just
Facts.
as meaningful in my life as the Amazon man. They be coming through here like all the time, like and I
clockwork.
realize I'm paying a lot, like in fees.
Yeah.
Like a $15 meal turns into $27 after the tip.
Yes.
But
Preach.
it's
They earn that
really,
tip.
Preach.
but it's really allowing me to be as lazy as I can be during the
Right.
pandemic. It's like,
Can't say that. I wish I could say that, because see, for me, I think most people know that I'm a cosplayer,
Mhm.
and then I actually make almost everything I wear,
Mhm.
which I you know, I've shown people most, you know, what I've been working on for the past week or so with Veronica's Jangle, just a couple of days ago. So I spent so much time in Joanne's. They're like, okay, what are you working on now? They see me once, twice a week. And I should just go ahead and buy a stocking, because I'm there once, twice a week.
you should do it, man.
And Amazon too. I mean, hell, I'm making y'all money. You may as well make me money too.
And Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A.
No, I can't do Chick-fil-A.
Consistent throughout this entire pandemic. Chick-fil-A has been consistent. Okay.
Yeah.
There's never been not one bad day at Chick-fil-A since this pandemic started.
Me and Chick-fil-A are at odds right now. And
Really?
have been for because I don't like their practices.
Yeah, that's
outside of the business side. Outside of the business.
All the new sneakerheads out there that have ruined the sneakers app for people like myself who used to hit frequently on the sneakers app before everybody and their mama got stuck at home and decided they were also going to buy all the shoes that I would typically be buying. And now the second that it goes from coming soon, it goes straight to sold out on the sneakers app. On shoes, I used to be able to get all the time. So shout outs to all y'all people who don't really care about shoes the way I care about shoes, but have now decided to buy all my shoes. The stuff that I personally was going to cop, I wear my shoes. But, you know, shout out to all y'all. I really do appreciate the new entrance into the sneakerhead game.
This is low-key my favorite part of the panel, because everyone's like, this is the stuff. I'm going to get out everything that I
get this off my chest. And the United States Post Office.
Oh my God, they get on my nerves.
I
ain't saying that on the record. You will not have me publicly saying USPS to get on my nerves. I love them.
I love them. I did have a lady receive, so I sent 2 packages in the same day. One of them went to Maryland. The other one went to the Netherlands. What? The lady in the Netherlands got her package, and the Maryland one is still in transit.
Oh yeah, shout out to sending something.
It got caught in that snow the other day.
That goes to Maryland, to Virginia, to Florida, back to DC.
Right.
Shout outs to that DC is 64 square miles, by the way.
It is.
So there are letters to DC who will travel further than some people will ever go in their lives, just trying to get 2 blocks down the street.
That is.
I had to lie to get a package this year. I had to lie back in September just to get my package on time. It was we had to dress up for this wedding, and we had to make sure we had like these ball gowns. And I really was like, look, I need this package. It's been 3 weeks. It's time. So I told them it was for a wedding, and they assumed I was the bride. And I was like, oh yeah, I am that. So go ahead on and make sure this gets here on time or 2 days before. I mean, it worked. Ain't no shame in my game. I don't care.
You got to do what you got to do.
Hey man, this is pandemic. This is close to like Mad Max. Like we're all
Right.
here. So you do whatever you have to do to achieve your goals. Try not
Shout out
kill
to that
anybody.
FedEx hub in Hagerstown, Maryland, too. That is like the hellhole where everything stops for weeks at a time coming into DC. If it hits Hagerstown on my little thing, I know it's gonna be there for like a week without any updates in the system. The next update will be a week later that says out for delivery from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. So shouts out to everybody out of Hagerstown for the FedEx.
Wow.
Y'all are doing the damn thing. I appreciate you. Keep it going. Let's fix that problem.
And hey, Greg, real quick, we've got a request for you.
I'm not singing.
It's not about singing. C.S. Sherman said he wants to see you at the Bayou Classic this year. Go Jags.
Okay, so check it out. I graduated high school in Bossier City, Louisiana, which is like the sister city of Shreveport, where the Bayou Classic is going to be. So I've really been trying to consider, because you know they're moving it from New Orleans this year to Shreveport. And I'm really kind of trying to consider it. I don't have to worry about hotels because I can stay at my sister's house. And if she's listening, then that's me asking, can I stay at her house? Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about it really, because I'm not gonna lie to you, the Bayou Classic, what was it? I think it was, I always get this confused. I think it was 95 or maybe 94. It was 94. Was one of the best times of my life. I'm actually writing a movie script about it right now. It was one of the best things, one of the best weekends ever. I didn't sleep at all. Slept like 30, 45 minutes tops.
One of the best
it was
Black college experiences ever is the Bayou Classic.
It was amazing, man. I ended up hanging out with Kid Capri. You'll find out when the movie comes out. But like I ended up, I mean, it was just an amazing time, y'all.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm thinking about hitting it, which is, you know, perfect because like I said, I don't have to worry about, you know, overhead. Plus that you probably can't get a hotel at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Your sister's house might be the better bet. But I do want to shout out our viewers again. Thank you, Kendra. Thank you, Nessa, Olatunde, Floyd. I want to you all's point, shout out all of the essential workers who are out there, all the managers, all the Target workers, all the people who really are doing the most and getting the least in return. Like really talk, you know.
They are getting the vaccine though. They are going to get the vaccine though.
And then we're going to, after, you know, Joe and Kamala finish their 2 terms, we're going to elect President Braveboy, and she's going to just fix everything and make sure Black people get their reparations. You know?
Amen.
Do something about these student loans, Aisha. Do something about these student loans, boo.
Number 1 on my list.
Yeah.
Off the top, you know, just
I'm like,
nice little safe.
I'm like, that 10 to 50,000 is just a scratch. Let's go a little higher.
Yeah, for most people.
Some of us been to school a lot.
Well, not only how much, when you think about how expensive school has become, like when my mom and I had the conversation of how much her tuition was versus how much my tuition was, it's like night and day. I mean, fortunately, I had a full academic scholarship, so I ain't have to worry about undergrad.
I wish.
Don't talk about programs. It gets real expensive real fast. So it's like 10 grand is a drop in the bucket considering how much tuition costs. Like 10 grand is 1 semester at a lot of schools.
That's true.
Lucky, you know, that's if you're lucky. So I definitely want to just shout those folks out, and definitely shout out all the folks who when everything hit the fan took to the streets and took to public policy or did whatever, took to their computers and just really highlighted all the things and documented everything that was happening. Because again, Panama, like, we need to make sure that we remember 2020 so that it doesn't happen again.
Well,
that's something that has been a systemic issue throughout this country, is that so much of our history is deliberately hidden from us, from Tulsa and the Tuskegee experiments, all these different stories that Greg highlights in his comic books and that folks seek to highlight through the work that they do. It's so important that we document this year and remember this year and continue to just keep our resilience and our perseverance so that we can make some progress. I can't even say get past this, because that seems like such a pie in the sky thing. We've been fighting this all, racism and sexism and homophobia and all these various transphobia and all these various isms, and for so long that it's hard to even see that there could be a light at the end of the tunnel. But that's no excuse to not try. That's no excuse to just give up on everything. And I'm just so
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful for all of you and all of the work that you do, where you don't have to, I was saying this on another podcast that I do, that you don't necessarily have to be rah, Black Lives Matter with your fist in the air all the time, but let it manifest in the work that you do, and in the art that you produce, and the uncomfortable conversations that you have going forward, on a regular basis, and make supporting, your own and supporting Black people, not just a theory or an idea, but a way of life, because that's what it is. It really is. This is a way of life. Going out of your way to support Black businesses, going out of your way to speak up when nobody else will speak up and say that all the uncomfortable things that we just said here in this space, but it comes naturally to us because we know how important it is.
Right.
I'm sorry, I had to raise my hand because I think something else that's important is the information that we have. I got to take part in this really cool thing we did on StreamYard. It was just us and then some younger guys, and we got to just talk. And I don't know if people understand, especially for the elder, statesmen up in here, how important it is to talk, because these young kids have this fire and they have this, like they were out, like my nieces were leading marches in Louisiana. My little cousin, she did the George Floyd painting. They live in Minnesota. She did like the real, I'm sure you guys have seen it. They actually asked to have it at, like, could they use it at the funeral? All of it. And it's like, these guys, these children, they have like so much fire in them, and they so much don't want to see things being unfair. And I think that we owe it to them to give them all the information that we have, because like these young guys, one of the young fellas, he was like saying, he did that whole we're not our ancestors thing.
Right.
And that makes me want to choke people. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, I need you to look up, July Perry, and I need you to look up some of these people who gave everything, who risked their wealth, who risked their lives for these people. Like, I feel like we need to make sure that we're conveying these stories to these kids, because I feel like there's a gap. There's a gap where they say, okay, this was oppression. We're not being oppressed right now. Yes, you are. You know what I'm saying? You're being oppressed, like you own less than people did in the 60s, than our people did in the 60s. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I feel like we gotta stay in their ear. And to your point, Chana, like, you don't necessarily have to be out there, toting guns and all of that, but you do need to be, sharing and sitting down and talking with these kids so they can get more balance in their approach. Because they think
wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
and
because they think.
Listen to them. Listen to what they have to say.
One of the biggest things about our youth, and I'll refer to my oldest because she just turned 26 a month and a half ago now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not afraid to talk. They're not afraid to take action. They're not, and the key is we haven't cautioned them or warned them, no, you shouldn't take action on this. We've actually, as parents of these younger, of this younger generation, said, don't be afraid to talk about this or that. Let me know what you're feeling. So they're going into adulthood now saying, okay, you're wrong, and this is why you're wrong. Now, the way they say it sometimes isn't right, but they're saying it, which is why you saw 81, 82 some odd million almost vote for Uncle Joe. I mean, and I'm taking it across the board. I'm not even just talking about our Black children right now. I'm talking about across the board. They're not afraid to speak out in good ways and bad. We need to keep uplifting that good side, like Greg was just saying, so that they know, so that they actually have the background to support what they're saying when they go out there and say, yeah, we're not our ancestors, but guess what? We know what they've done, and we're going to take it to another level.
And not only the uplift, but also the resources, because against racism and injustice, fighting against homophobia and economic injustice costs money. You know, you talking, I spent pretty much my entire career in nonprofit. It costs money, and it takes a lot of manpower, and a lot of time, and a lot of energy, and a lot of expertise of any and every background you could possibly think of. This is a multifaceted issue that is going to require multifaceted solutions. And it's so important that we just really, you know, again, have that two-way interaction with future generations, because they have an important perspective that we need to be mindful of, you know, as we move forward in this work. I want to give all of you a chance to wrap up with any remarks that you might have to close out, maybe words of inspiration that you might have, or you could shout out your kids or whoever, you know, any last words, as they say. And we'll start with, I don't know, who wants to go first? This feels so chill now. We'll start with.
I'll start.
Okay.
2020 has been trash.
Okay.
The only way to go from here is up. Let us all hope and pray that 2021 is not as much trash as 2020 is. Because it would take a whole lot to be a worse year than this year has been. And I for one am not asking God to prove that he is the one true God and show me that he can make it worse. I am just asking that he will allow us to enjoy 2021 outside with our homies and dapping up one another. With that being said, this has been cool. It's been awesome. I've enjoyed this conversation. You know, thanks for having me here. It's always fun to talk to other people, especially my HBCU folks. I don't know, we just different. We built different. We from different stock as far as I'm concerned. I'm still on paternity leave, but check out verysmartbrothers.com whenever. I mean, Damon is still writing, you know, where we talk about these issues and all that other stuff, but I genuinely enjoyed the conversation with you all. Pleasure to meet those of you that I've not met before. I've learned things. I'll make sure I check out that comic book, by the way. I'm exceedingly interested in the Tuskegee Heirs comic book. And I'm not even really a big comic book person, but I am very much interested in what you have there. So pleasure to meet you all. Thank you for having me be a part of this combo.
Oh, shucks. Well, Greg, I guess we'll move to you because since your comic books were mentioned, and they really are beautifully written comics. Greg ain't gonna get too many compliments out of me, but he is a good writer.
You're just saying that. Yeah, man. Panama kind of hit it on the nail with the whole 2020 being trash thing. Um, I I think mental health. I think we touched on it a little bit, but this is the kind of year where a large percentage of the population might need, to look into counseling or find different things. I bought a drone. Shauna knows this, and I'm in love with my drone. I fly it as much as possible. It's actually therapeutic for me somehow. Um, but find things like ways to release. I can go out, be outside. I don't have to be around people, but I can still have fun. So that's a cool thing. I think try to this year has been cool because, like I said before, I found out different ways to kind of get it. I'm starting a nonprofit. I actually started a nonprofit where I'm going to be focused on getting comics, graphic novels, like diverse, I'm going to use that word, Black, stuff, getting it into, like juvenile detention centers and at-risk youth. So what we're going to be doing is we'll start off, getting books in, but then we'll end up trying to get more programs in as COVID kind of gets better. So that part is one of the things that I always want to do is be serving my people. We've seen, and it might sound funny, but we've seen like the impact that these comic books have made on people like firsthand. Like we get all the stories, the people, saying stuff like, their kids hate reading, but now they're reading, this prompted them to want to read. So, TuskegeeAirs.com. I am Greg Burnham. I have another publishing company called Platform L7, and there's a .com on that too. So yeah, that's where I can be found, and you can yell at me if you need to. Thank you for letting me be on here with these amazing people. Wendell, I miss you. I miss you very much.
Next year.
This dude,
I've been working.
This dude is so supportive, and people like this just make the our community like a family type of thing. So like I said, we see each other at different conventions. Yeah, I mean, he killed it as Stevie Wonder Woman. Like
Wonder Man.
It's Wonder Man, my bad.
Yes,
the man is.
I've been correcting people for the past 3 or 4 days.
I appreciate. No, for real. I appreciate being on here. Thank you for having me. I'm gonna shut up because there's more awesome people that need to talk.
No, and Greg and I joke around a lot, so please don't take our passive aggressive behavior toward each other seriously.
Take mine seriously.
Whatever. Anyway, so but I do want to iterate what you said about Wendell, who is just like, you're just a godsend to this organization and to me as a person and my personal development and growth. And I just like you're vice president, but you're very much like a mentor and someone who I look up to in so many ways. And I just thank you for conceptualizing this. And I want to also give my fair LadyT and future President Braveboy an opportunity to speak. I'm claiming it. I'm claiming it.
Yep.
Shoot. But go ahead, my fair lady.
Hold on, I gotta fix my lighting.
It's okay.
Hey, okay, I'm back, baby. All right. So so I guess I don't know. I actually am really looking forward to 2021. I'm so excited. I don't know. I had a lot of good things happen to me this year. But I know that's not the popular opinion because, of what's been going on. I was so excited to see our people thriving during the protests. I was so excited to see more unity and a lot of diversity at the protests. I was so excited to see that. I saw a lot of things I know that stuck out to me in 2020. Kamala Harris, thank you so much. I'm so glad that she won. Shout out to Stacey Abrams. I feel like women were winning this year. And I also saw a lot of people who, you know, yes, you lost your jobs. Yes, you were unemployed for a while, but they started businesses. I saw like a whole bunch of people started businesses out of their passions, out of their dreams. And all of a sudden, like, we're thriving and doing what they love instead of, you know, their typical government job. And I think that was amazing. What else did I love? So basically this year, the host of our Be More Lifestyle show, she was out for like a couple of months. So I got to host and I got to launch Be More Lifestyle on Fox 45. So I'm going to go down in history as the person who launched the Be More Lifestyle show on Fox 45. So I guess that's super exciting to me. And I'm a Black woman who did it. So I'm really glad about that. What else? So many great things happened this year. So I'm really anxious and I'm really looking forward to 2021. I know that, you know, things were looking kind of bleak at first, but let's look forward to next year, 2021. I want us all to be winning. I want Greg's comic books. I want all of us to be winning. I want us to be thriving. I want us to be making money. I see success and prosperity for all of us. And that's why I'm looking forward to 2021. I just see great things happening. And I'm so happy that I got a chance to be on this panel with these great minds. You guys are, you know, so successful and thriving. And I'm so honored to even be a part of something like this. You know, being from a HBCU, it ain't easy. Yes, the money was funny. Yes, the financial aid office is trash. You know, it is. It is. So we are
it's character building.
Okay.
Character building.
That's right.
The cafeteria food was not always great. Like
it was a character builder.
Woo! It really did.
I will shout out Eastern Shore.
And now you're so immune. You're so immune to so many other things. You probably don't need the COVID-19 vaccine because of the food, the on-campus food.
Or at least you'll be fine. You know, we'll be fine.
Right. You're
if I could drink out of a bathtub at Frostburg State, then I think I'm willing to take the risk.
Oh my gosh.
I know it's
Frostburg? Oh, yeah. The parties there were lit though.
Times it was the worst of times.
It was the worst of times.
I ate taco salads for like 4 weeks straight, like every day in the cab rambling. I ate a taco salad. They were terrible.
Style? It was like
it was something else, like the iceberg lettuce.
It was human meat. Human meat is what it was.
See, I can't speak on the college experience that way because by the time I went to college, I was 27.
Oh yeah,
out of the military.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and speak on the military side of it. I ate MREs for a doggone living for parts of the year. Not the best thing. When you want to talk ghetto gourmet is when you sit there and flip an MRE into something that's actually edible.
But that sounds like a good show though.
It does.
Ghetto gourmet.
Tracy Morgan kind of did that, but he was out of prison. He was the prison chef.
But see, he used a regular stove and
he was like using Skittle, like
you
like using a lamp, a flashlight to heat up your food.
An easy bake oven.
Right.
Well, there's combinations and fantastic things you can do to those. But then on the ghetto gourmet side, there's other things you can actually do. But I'll get into that in my. You should go ahead,
a chance to say your spiel and how we can survive on prison food. But
that might be a whole nother panel.
Future President Braveboy, please share your words of wisdom and tell us why we're gonna vote for you. And
wow. Well, I'm just going to give out some general shout outs, but I am going to get into one little heavy subject. But I just want to shout out my Swords of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated and the rest of the Divine Nine, because we held it down, all of us together, holding it down for Kamala. Now we're about to hold it down for Reverend Warnock, who's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. We're just coming together and showing what that Greek unity is. And it's beautiful to see. It's amazing. And all of us should be just like shouting and, we're all proud. When one win, we all win. And that's just how it is. I also want to give a shout out. Y'all were talking about people building businesses during the pandemic. There's a guy, he's an Omega. Him and his wife opened PJ's Coffee in the Fairwood Shopping Center. best beignets I've had, and I've been to New Orleans a few times, had it down at Cafe Du Monde. I'm trying to tell y'all, these beignets rival, if to me, are better than the ones I found in New Orleans. So I need y'all to check it out. Greg, don't look, trust me, okay? Let me tell you, check it out. Bearwood Shopping Center in Bowie. But the other thing I just wanted to mention is that yesterday I had the pleasure of talking with a young man. I call him young because he's just 1 year older than me, who celebrated his second birthday. The reason why it's his second birthday that he celebrates is because a year ago yesterday, he was released from prison after serving 29 years.
Oh, wow.
And when I became state's attorney, I decided I was going to work on the issue of juvenile lifers and giving juvenile lifers a second chance. And my office was the first in the state to take up this issue. We have since been able to release 8 individuals, but he was one of them. And he was the first one. Wow. And when I tell you that he told me that when he heard me, because I didn't realize they were listening to like what us politicians say when they're, in prison. I just didn't know how much they follow what we were talking about. Mm-hmm. He said when he heard me say that I was going to look at or review sentences for people who were disproportionately sentenced, he said that not only did he have hope, but all of the young men who he was with in prison with from Prince George's County had hope that they would not die behind the wall.
Wow.
And when I tell you that when he said that to me, I didn't realize how powerful those words were, how much they would have affect people, but then also them not just seeing the words, but then seeing it in action and seeing some people who they've been serving with, getting those second chances and knowing that they've got their, the motions. We filed in a dozen other cases and we're still reviewing cases, knowing that we are actually doing it. We just didn't say it, but that we're actually doing it means everything. And I have to tell you that I got that, honestly, that courage, all of that from going to an HBCU. Wow. That's what we supposed to do. That's what we just supposed to do. At Howard, that's what Howard lawyers do, And I want to continue that work, but I'm going to need the support of the HBCUs because we need to get some of these young brothers and sisters, because we have also released sisters into schools. And I know our schools will accept them, but also I feel like they need that creative outlet. So Greg, I want to reach out to you and figure out how we partner and work together. And I've got some other things I want to share with you all offline, but I just feel like this is our time. We just need to do the darn thing. And that's all I have to say. See you in 2021.
Is that all, President Braveboy? Come on now.
Yes, indeed.
Come on now. All right, Wendell.
It's my turn.
Yes, it's your turn. You wrap us up and then we'll close out. I'm so amped and so hyped. I'm ready to take over the world.
My first words are going to be this. Aisha, Tiffany, Greg, I want to thank the 3 of you for joining us tonight because I know all 3 of you personally. So I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight because it literally was just a text message at first. Hey, we're doing this sometime in December. We don't have a date yet, but we're going to do this thing. And, all 3 of you accepted. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you all for jumping into this thing tonight with us and having this conversation. Panama, I've been hearing about you for the past year and a half, I think now, maybe a little bit longer, talking with Cece. Mm-hmm. And we haven't been able to link up yet, but we're going to link up because we apparently live very close to each other. So we're going to link up sometime soon. And and continue building towards HBCUCon's bigger goal. As far as my remembrance, the things that I remember for this year, the good and the bad. I'll start off with the bad and then work myself towards the good. I've had too many friends who have lost a lot of loved ones this year. One friend in particular, she's lost 17 different people this year. Some due to COVID and some not. But she lost 17 people this year. And there have been times I called her and she was in tears. And I just had to, everything's gonna be okay.
Jesus.
And you know, the call, and I've known her for 20 some odd years now. So, you know, that's my little sister, pretty much.
Wow.
So, you know, to have to make that kind of call, and then, you know, because of COVID, to, you know, to be in touch with people who through Facebook and through IG, you know, that I grew up with, and to hear that, yeah, we lost 7 people in a week from our old neighborhood. People that I knew or their parents. And it's like, whoa.
Right.
Okay, this is getting heavy. But then to turn around and see the things that people have been doing to find that uplift and to deal with the mental side of things and the growth that the community is starting to do as a whole, because in the conversation, during the conversation, C.S. Sherman actually brought up another point where he said it's time for people to stop saying, or I should say, COVID brought out the fact that it's time for people to stop saying, man up to do this or woman up to do that, and to start doing some self-appreciation, some self-healing, some self-building, so that these things don't necessarily hit you as hard. There's still some things are still going to hit you hard, but they won't hit you as hard, and you'll be able to deal with them a little bit more. Or you be able to, as a dude, we're always told, don't cry for this, don't cry for that. You be able to sit there and cry in front of your wife, your girlfriend, your kids, or whoever is in front of you at that point, because you just heard, you know, you just lost a family member, or you just lost your job, for instance. Because hell, that's what this year's been all about. People lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now the good thing is we got some gains too, because Uncle Joe's back.
Hey.
Not as VP, not as VP this time. He's actually Pete. But then we got Kamala as VP. So I mean, what else can we do?
Right.
But celebrate on the 21st, on the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd, because you know that's, well, whatever. Who cares? We're gonna celebrate those 3 days. I don't care what days are. It could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm celebrating. Right. Anyway, we have a path to go forward and do some things.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't want the normal to come back, because the normal is trash. I need a new normal to develop and build, so that we don't have to worry, not necessarily that worry about what's going to happen, so that we're better prepared for the next thing that happens.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
So
and to your point,
those things, yeah, we need a new normal. We don't need the old normal.
Right.
Yeah.
And then lastly, no, you don't get to talk yet, woman. Stop. Because I'm about to call you to the stage any doggone way, because HBCU Con is this is our last event for 2020. But we have some things coming down the line in 2021, including a virtual con. The date will be announced sometime soon, hopefully. So those watching, be prepared. Our team that's helping us do all this stuff, be prepared, because we got some work ahead of us. Greg, Panama, be prepared. But then again, y'all already know that. Tiff and Aisha, I hope that you guys can join us again for when we do our our virtual con later this year.
Yeah.
So we'll be reaching out to you all again for your support and participation, because hey, I've known you both for years, so I've got you both here.
Mhm.
And Aisha, you know my wife, so I mean, yeah. So
Yeah, and happy
it's-
centennial
yeah.
to Zeta Phi Beta too. 'Cause I know your wife is a Zeta, Wendell.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to give them a shout out. Happy centennial to them, and y'all have been
you know
taking
what?
stamp
Ooh,
for this year.
yeah. And any of the Zetas that know me that are watching this, don't kill me because I did not mention that. And don't go calling and don't call go
The Delta
and
is
don't
here for. I got
and
you.
don't go calling the past bachelors for TDZ either, because I don't need that when I go back in the house. Okay,
That is fair. But
it wasn't on purpose. I was
you
doing
got the
other
blue.
things.
You got the
So
blue. All right.
Madam President
Yes.
of HBCU Con, what are your last words for 2020?
Well, it's not like I got a bunch of tough acts to follow now, is it? But
Tough.
I'm just grateful. This year has been a year for me to count my blessings. And I hope that you will all do the same. You know, I think that folks have found really profound ways just to be able to get through this. And that's ultimately the takeaway from this, is that you don't have to feel like, oh, I should have started that LLC, you know, that LLC mentality, or I should have done this, I should have done that. I'm not doing enough, you know, to you know, make myself into a better person. But you are so much more. There's so much more to who you are than your productivity. And your if there's anything that you take away from this year, is that your health, your mental health, your spiritual health, your physical health is paramount. And not just that, but your families as well and their health. I want to thank you all so much for this. This is something that that I didn't know I needed until Wendell said something. But the minute he said something, I'm like, yeah, you know, when Wendell says something needs to happen, I usually go with it because I know that there's a reason for it. And I'm just so grateful that all of you made the commitment to be here and to just really be open and be vulnerable with all the platforms that you all have. And we're definitely going to make time offline for you all to exchange contacts and everything. But just, you know, stay safe, wear your masks, socially distance, keep fighting the good fight. And we will definitely have some things in store for you virtually next year to help continue to get us through this. But I want to leave us off on a positive note and give the honorary tribute to the what was the guy's name who did the "Where the Money Reside"? Where the money
reside? Hey, that's damn.
That is our creed for where we will be in 2021. We will be where the money resides. We will be where happiness resides, where love resides, and where equity resides, right? So thank you all so much. And until next time, guys. Waiting on when Wendell's gonna take us offline. So
I just want to say, if we're not off yet, y'all watch Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Just came out on Netflix yesterday. It's amazing. Go watch that.
Yeah, and I hear Jingle Jangle too. If you guys are Christmas elves, Jingle Jangle has been taken over.
I don't celebrate Christmas, and Jingle Jangle is still the best thing that happened in the last quarter. Like I definitely.
Oh, that's your robot you building for Jingle Jangle?
Yes, indeed.
Yay!
Yeah, that thing is amazing, man.
Yeah.
I love that, that movie.
All right, well, Wendell, you could take us offline. We done wrapped up while you stepped off. We were talking about you, and then we just said we're done. So.
Oh, fine.
We weren't talking about you.
Bye, everyone. See you in 2021.
Yes. Take care, everyone. We love you.
Bye.
We are off air.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you.
We're not recording anymore.